Hey guys, welcome to the first part of lesson 5. So this week is very exciting. We're starting a new unit and we're beginning our conversation about intervals. So what is an interval? An interval is the distance between two notes. And when we're naming intervals, we're going to actually look at two different things. The first thing that we're going to look at is the number. The number component refers to the number of lines and spaces from the first note to the second note in an interval. So to figure this one out, all you need to do is starting on the bottom note, call that 1, and then just count up until you get to the top note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines and spaces from the bottom note to the top note, which makes this interval some kind of sixths. And once you find the number component, you always want to write it down right away so that you don't forget it. The second thing we're going to look at when we're naming an interval is its quality. The quality is determined by the number of half steps it takes to get from the bottom note to the top note. So for instance, these two intervals are both sixths, but when we play them, they don't sound the same because this first one, D to B, is 1 half step bigger than the second one, D to B flat. The number component of the interval, which we found earlier, is going to impact what choices you have for the quality of the interval. Seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths will either be major or minor. The minor version of each of these is 1 half step smaller than the major version of it. Octaves, which are the same thing as eighths, will pretty much always be perfect. Fourths and fifths are usually perfect, but there's a sneaky interval in between a perfect fourth and a perfect fifth that's called a tritone. And a tritone is 1 half step smaller than a perfect fifth and 1 half step bigger than a perfect fourth. The reason the tritone is sneaky is that visually it can look like a fourth or a fifth, but the way you can tell that it's not a perfect fourth or a perfect fifth is by listening, because unlike a perfect fourth or a perfect fifth, a tritone sounds kind of yucky. So in order to figure out the quality of any interval, the first step is going to be to write all of the intervals in order from smallest to biggest. So that order is minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, tritone, perfect fifth, minor sixth, major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh, and finally perfect octave. Once you get them all in that order, you're going to write beneath them the numbers 1 through 12, starting with minor second. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so those numbers that we just wrote refer to the number of half steps that it takes to get from the first note to the second note in each of those intervals. So a minor second is 1 half step big, a major second is 2 half steps big, a minor sixth is 8 half steps big, etc., etc. Once you have created this little chart for yourself, you're going to take a look at your piano keyboard and you're going to find both notes in your interval on it. And make sure you do it in the same order as you see them on the page. So we're going to find our D first, and that's here. and then we want to go towards the right to go up, and so then we want to find B, and that's here. And then we're just going to count half steps to see how many it takes to get from the bottom note to the top note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 half steps. And so then we're going to take a look at our chart up here and find the number 9. And 9 half steps means that this is a major sixth. And remember that earlier we had already discovered that this was a sixth, and we'd already written it down. So now all we need to do is add the quality. And I'm going to write MAJ as my abbreviation for major. If this happened to be a minor sixth, I would write MIN to abbreviate minor, because they both start with M, so you can't just do a single letter. Let's take 2 more examples to practice naming intervals. So the first step is going to be to just write in the names of the 2 notes. So looking at number 1, we have G and we have C. Then the next step is going to be to count the number of lines and spaces it takes to get from the first note to the second note. And remember that the first note is 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We know that this is a fourth of some kind. And so then it's time to figure out the quality. So I've already written out this chart, and when you're doing it, you'll only need to write the chart once. So then the next step is we're going to find G and C on our keyboard, and then we're going to count the number of half steps it takes to get from G to C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 half steps. And we go up to our chart and we see that 5 corresponds to a perfect fourth, which is great news. So then we can write in the quality here, perfect fourth. Now let's look at number 2. First we name our 2 notes, C and E flat. Then we count the number of lines and spaces between them. 1, 2, 3. So this is some kind of third. And then we're going to find our 2 notes on the piano keyboard, C and E flat, and count the number of half steps it takes to get from the bottom note to the top note. So 1, 2, 3. And then we look up here at our table. 3 half steps corresponds to a minor third. And we already have the 3 written in, so all we need to do is add the quality. And I'm going to write M-I-N to abbreviate minor. So this is a minor third. So that's all for this week. Next week we're going to continue talking about intervals. We're going to talk about an easier way to deal with the bigger ones instead of having to count all the way up to 12 half steps, but it's good to get this method down first. And then we're also going to be talking about how solfege fits into all of this. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next week.